Good morning. It's August 6th, 2024. You've joined the Kubeflow community call. This call is being recorded. It is governed by the Kubeflow Code of Conduct. I'm your host, Josh Bottom, and we are here today to discuss our agenda as we've got presented. Hopefully folks can see what we're presenting. Ricardo, I believe you may be here. Perhaps you could give us a release update to date of how things are going.
Sure, Josh. So let me start with 1.9. Although we already released 1.9 2 weeks ago, we were finishing the retrospective for the 1.9. Yesterday, we had our second round of the retrospective meeting. We finished all of that. So the next steps here is I will need to document that, and we'll post into the community repo all the retrospective notes. With that, we can consider 1.9 officially done. And with that, we're gonna now split the teams into two tasks. One is to form the new Kubeflow 1.10 release team. So we're gonna work on raising issues to form the new release team for 1.10. And for 1.9, we'll discuss for the next meetings any bug reports that could be worthy to release a patch release for 1.9, probably 1.9.1. One last thing that was missing for 1.9, and we are going to record the notebooks updates on the 1.9 release, and then merging this into what we have so far for the overall release video, and then publish on YouTube. I think that's it. If there's anyone who's willing to contribute with the new 1.10 release, feel free to hit me a message. One of the requirements for being part of this release team, you must be a Kubeflow member. This is simply proof that you made some contributions on the Kubeflow community, maybe 1 or 2 PRs, and then you're able to become a Kubeflow member. Other than that, you can check out the release handbook for the available roles. One of them is the next release manager. We're still looking for the new release manager, although I believe Stefano is still willing to be part of the 1.10 release team as the product manager. But those are things that we're gonna discuss in the next release meeting. I believe that's that. I'll keep you guys posted on any updates on the 1.10 and 1.9.1 if there's a need for releasing 1.9.1. But so far, if there's any questions or comments about the release updates, feel free to chime in.
Oh, I just noticed that the release date was wrong on the website. It says it's 2023. When I went to look at it to try and get the release date, it says it was released on 2023. So
Okay, we can fix that.
yeah, the problem is I don't know the exact actual release date because GitHub uses 2 weeks ago, as its release date.
Okay, thanks for pointing that out. I'll make sure to fix the release date for 1.9.
Cool.
Good catch. Alrighty, any other questions, comments?
Yeah, look, I think we can all say that 1.9 has been a successful delivery. So I think the view now is, where do we go from here? I got one question on 1.9.1. Will there be a 1.9.1, or are we hoping not to have to do that?
Yeah, just something that we still need to discuss. I know Julius pointed out some bug reports that could be worth it to consider 191 release. But I'd like to ask the other working groups first to see if there are other important or critical bug fixes that we need to consider 191 first. My plan is to discuss this for the next release team meeting, along with the planning for 110 release. I'll keep you guys posted on anything about the need of a 191 and the new team for 110.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you. On 110, kind of not looking for a real long discussion, but would like to get some feedback from folks about what we think 110 could entail. And for instance, there are some CMCF graduation requirements that could suck up a lot of development time and energy. There are other things that we may want to pursue. Improvements in our LLM integration functionality, things like this. I'm wondering if there's anybody has a hot topic. I know we've got Notebooks 2.0 and other things, but if you thought about 1.10, is there anything that like comes to mind that like, hey, this is a must-have for 1.10?
I think I can, yeah, Eder already pointed out some of the things we could already consider for 110 is the model registry UI and also the Spark operator, because though we mentioned it in 1.9, it's not officially added to the 1.9 release. So possibly we can add Spark operator as part of the 110 release.
I'm just also wondering if Andre, what the status of the V2 version of the training operator might be.
Yeah, we will merge it today and we will start working Q4.
Just
So
to
I
be
think-
clear, you're talking about merging the proposal.
Yeah, I think implementation also could be in Q4, at least like the alpha version, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, so if that's something that we might want to possibly include.
Yeah, that's true.
Matthew, can you also add the Spark operator? I believe this is possible to add into 110. Yep. Thanks. Okay, I think that's that for the release update. So back to you, Josh.
Yeah, that's a hefty set of stuff right there, right? I mean, I think those are all valuable additions. So hopefully that helps the release team a little bit. Obviously not anyway comprehensive or well thought out set, but I top of mind. These are really nice, and it touches almost every working group in a lot of ways.
Well,
So
I guess-
let's move on.
I guess one
Unless
question
anybody
for
has any other ideas here on themes and directions for 110 they want to throw in.
I just want to have one question about what pipelines is planning to do. Like, I mean, pipelines and notebooks and pipelines happen to be some of, if not the most popular components. So I'd love to get some input into what they're planning to have done by that. We obviously don't have a date yet, but by that date, you know. Of course, you don't have to get an answer now. I'm just saying. I think we should, like, we need to always have something from Kubeflow notebooks and pipelines. Is what I'm saying. But yeah. Like, I think we're getting close to having V2 pipelines be as good as V1, but for a lot of users, they're still unable to migrate. So stuff like that, you know.
It's a very interesting point, Matthew, is that I was speaking to a user a while back, and he was like, I haven't even tried V2 because I haven't spent the time to learn it. And perhaps, there might be an effort, even if it isn't new features on V2 pipelines, it's just maybe there's a training effort or a class that says, hey, come back in and build something with pipelines V2, or, obviously features are good too. But you get the point. I think that we do need to hustle up people to migrate to V2.
So I did actually we haven't merged yet, but I did help rewrite the migration guide from V1 to V2. It got held up a little. I mean, I haven't had time to go back to it, but it's got held up a little bit because it talks a bit about Vertex AI. I didn't remove any references to Vertex AI that were in the original guide, and people were a bit upset about that because they don't like referencing specific vendors. But I think I did rearrange the page so that the Vertex AI stuff was at the bottom, but I don't know. It's still like people didn't like it. That was it.
Yeah, I think you brought a good point, Matthew, with changing the migration guide. All I can tell is that, well, for 1.9, we made a huge improvement in the documentation, especially in the documentation structure for pipelines. As for the pain about migrating to V2, it's also under our radar because it looks like people didn't understand the differences between V1 and V2 architecture. And we have some open issues to have a clear understanding on how V2 works and what is our plan to achieve fully feature parity between V1 and V2, because this is one of the most complaints about the pipelines users. V2 is not 100% a feature parity with V1. So those are the things that we plan to work for next releases for pipelines.
Chase?
Yep, that PR pretty much should be ready. Don't merge it yet. I'm just the PR I'm currently focusing on is the sidebar nesting and fixed width change to the website, which makes the website overall a lot easier to read. I'll show you a demo of it. I'll show if we get time in the meeting. I'll show a demo of it, but we'll see.
So I think that this unveils a few things. If we don't have users migrating to V2, this could be two parts. A, it's hard to migrate, and B, justifying the existence of V2. So maybe this is two parts here where we improve the migration, but we also justify the existence of V2. What was the genesis of V2? Why we moved from V1 to V2, and then also give them that vision of the roadmap ahead. So maybe there's some content we create or tutorials, etc., just to help bring users along for the journey. Because I guess it could be jarring if you don't know the whole story. You're using V1 and now you're just cut over to V2. Well, what's in it for me moving to V2, and what's going to be the benefit moving forward?
Just so we're clear for everyone who's listening, you can use V1 pipelines on V2. Just so we're clear. But yeah.
Right, and some user might get even more confused by that. It's kind of like you can run Spark, you can run Ray, and then you can run Ray on Spark, right? Customers are going to go, okay, what are the trade-offs, right? What are my decisions here? Do I need to move to V2, or am I going to get the rug pulled out from under me? Which would be my concern, right?
Oh, the answer to that is we're no longer supporting V1, but V1 is able to run on V2 pipelines. That's what I'm saying. That's what.
Forever.
That is definitely not the case, but we do not know the exact date.
Right. So these are things I guess we just need to help users understand. I mean, everything's a risk decision here, right? On what's going to be supported. When can you migrate? How is the success of your project? So maybe I guess we can start building some content out there that's around, V2 and the history and why it makes sense for people to migrate, as well as our plans to make it easier to migrate. Kind of like we're doing with a lot of things with the install, right? We say to customers, we understand users, install is difficult. Here's the future of the install, and this is how we can improve it, just so they can kind of see where things are going.
Okay, cool. We should probably move on. We've got a lot of topics. Sorry, I don't want to take over the meeting.
Yeah, one last point on that. I mean, if we did formally discontinue community support on V1, maybe distributions can support, users. Just an idea here that, sometimes the community needs to narrow our focus. We continue to broaden our focus, but carrying older software for long periods of time, especially if we don't have people that are going to support questions, that sometimes hurts our reputation. So, Andre, what's up with the working group data?
Yeah, I just want to discuss a few maybe small things just before I move to this. I see you in the call. Do you want to introduce yourself to the community? Maybe just say hello, introduce yourself. Yeah, I think I'm asking you if you can hear me from the Spark operator team. Yeah, hi.
Hello. Sorry. My name is Yi Chen, and I'm recently I'm working for Spark Operator, and recently I want to publish a new release of Spark Operator, but I don't have the permission to publish a release, so I want to join the data work group.
Yeah,
So
thank you. Yeah, I just want to like give you a little bit of context. So, Yi has been working on like on a Spark operator recently very hard, especially like I think basically he was one of the most active contributors across the other active members. And like he helps us to migrate to the control runtime, he helps us to migrate to the new version for APIs and helping to improve the release processes, right? And like I know that Var and Sharon right now not on the call, but they kind of like promoting he from the reviewers to approver. And right now, like he also could help us to make the releases. Basically, we need to give the right access. So the thing is like I want to discuss. I know we kind of like in the process to establish the guidelines, how folks can be promoted to the working group leads. But just like want to hear your opinion on this front. Like what should be our next steps? Or we should just move on and promote, the new working group leads if we find like the active contributors under the data specific, like working group data components in the Kubeflow ecosystem. Any suggestions?
How many
How?
leads do
Yeah,
you
go
currently
ahead.
have, Andre?
Sorry, Matthew.
How many leads do you currently have?
Yeah, it's only like Charon and Vara right now.
So these are already people who are already leads.
Yes, yes. So we have also some other folks remote. So we kind of like this working group data discussion, right? Like previously we kind of combined model registry and Spark operator on a single working group. Which means like right now we have also model registry people in this group, but these people like they're not active in Spark operator. At the same time, people from Spark operator, they're not active in model registry, right? But we have a single working group, right? For those components.
That was why I was suggesting we make a metadata working group and split the model registry into them. But yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, the thing is like if we can always, I mean, this is like separate discussion. Like, should we create a project dedicated working group, or working group should be dedicated to the specific ML lifecycle piece of the story? Because like, I understand like today, yes, like we don't have a lot of diversity across those projects, right? But in the future, maybe we have some people who might want to work on model registry and a Spark as well, right? So we don't know like what's happening in the future.
I don't think
I
it
think right now-
prevents them
yeah.
from doing that. It's just more like practically they may want to have their own meetings. It's more about if they want to have their own meetings. If they are comfortable having the same meeting, that's fine. That's the primary question.
Yeah.
Well, and permissions, actually, and separate permissions too. Like there is some implication, right? Like I think that's what you're saying here, right? That if you're the lead of the data working group, you end up as a writer on both, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, from my personal perspective, I feel that if we kind of ready to promote person to the working group lead, we kind of have enough trust to him to, like, give a right access to specific part of Kubeflow ecosystem. But I'm happy to discuss your own different suggestions and opinions on this.
Has he given the blood oath to the working group?
So sorry, Josh.
What
Okay.
blood? I don't know what initiation you've done, Josh.
No, I'm all for promoting people who have been active contributors. I think, you know, I would like to err on the side of best judgment of the folks that are there to promote people as quickly as possible to right access, because I think people get frustrated when they're trying to contribute. Now, let's balance that with quality, right? One of the things I've been just super proud of about the Kubeflow community is that often we come out with a release and we don't get a lot of arrows thrown at us about quality. Like, quality's pretty good, right? We don't hear a lot of things about software quality being bad. So I am much more I think that if we have somebody who's a candidate and the people feel fairly confident that they should move up, we should be promoting them. This is just my take, Andre, but you may have a different feel.
So like, not everyone who contributes needs to be a lead. Of course, in this particular case, there is this question of whether someone can have right access without being a lead. I think that's kind of what you're saying, Andre, as well. Is there like that second question?
No, I think, I mean, from the Spark operator team, like Wara, like he was pushing, you know, us to promote you as the working group lead, right?
If he's already a lead, then the leads should be able to decide who the new leads are, right?
That's right, but the thing is, like, because we also have model registry folks, right? We need to get confirmation from them as well, right?
So that's what I was saying. We need to split for that reason alone.
I mean, there are different opinions, right? And there is pros and cons of splitting and not splitting, right? If you think about long-term vision, right? Like not splitting maybe makes sense to like get folks involved in other parts of the ecosystem and not be like locked in on a single project. But at the same time, I mean, I send you in terms of like, you know, have more like, you know, boundaries around like what access you have, right?
I'm not even talking about it from an access perspective. I'm not even saying we don't trust these people. It's more like, if I was one of those people, I don't necessarily want to be responsible for a project that I'm not involved in. You know, like the leads theoretically are responsible to make sure that that project is released. And it's not necessarily that we don't trust them to have access on it. I'm sure they wouldn't do anything. It's more like, you know, I've in a similar position where I've ended up being the lead of all of the core components, and it's kind of annoying. I mean, I'm happy to do it, but it's kind of annoying, you know.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I think it's a fair point as well, right?
This seems like
Yeah,
a bigger topic that might take some additional thought beyond this call.
Anyway, I'm all for giving them right access on the repo that they are a major contributor to and that the leads of that repo think they should have. Whether or not they're technically a lead is a separate question. I think if it would help that project move forward, we should do it.
Yeah, but back to your question, Anish, like we use GitHub Teams today for right access, but the thing is like we have the GitHub team for working group data, right? It was historically how it was designed to have a working group, to have team per working group. We can have a team per, you know, project, but we just haven't got a chance to discuss if it is the right approach.
There is actually one for pipelines already, so there is some precedent for this.
Yeah, but the pipelines has the working group.
Yeah, but no, but there's also a separate pipelines writer group.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, but
That's
the thing
literally
is,
the same idea. That's the same idea.
yeah, but it was before working group was established in 2019, right?
Yeah, it also is because just an unbelievable amount of people have right access to that repo. But yeah.
Yes. So, okay, for the short term, do we have anyone here from the model registry folks who can give your opinion, like what we can do for the short term to the long term, on this specific topic?
Andre here. First of all, thank you both for the feedback. For the discussion about this one. I think that sort of like what we've seen for that data working group, what I've seen at least from my side is that realistically there is no much time that I have let's say, get involved in the Spark operator, and I think likewise because we haven't seen in the bi-weekly meeting of the model registry operator of the model registry folks from the Spark operator. So at the end of the day, I think that one thing that I sort of like about the current setup is that I have everything that I need in order to keep the project model registry ongoing from a permission point of view. So between the bots or anything, or I can even sort of like in specific part of the GitHub repo, I can give access to others contributors that are more dedicated, for instance, for UI, for the micro front end. So that part is the thing that works best for me. If from a working group perspective, we want to keep them merged, for me, it's totally fine. But I can, and also these could sort of like try in the long run to make the sort of like activities somehow cross-pollinate together. But as you can see, for instance, like in the model registry, what we've been done for 1.9, which is integration with kservadon, and what we are planning for 1.10, which is integration with other components. At least for model registry, we are trying to do that regardless of which working group we are, simply because model registry by its own nature, we are looking into how to showcase the best integration possible with other Kubeflow components or add-on. And this, I think, is maybe specific to model registry, unrelated to the working group data definition. I don't know if it makes sense, at least.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
understand. I understand that makes sense. Yeah, so again, I think here it's more about like making the releases for Spark Operator. Like we need like folks who can like volunteer and drive those processes, right, and help Vara and Chowran to move this forward. Yeah, but for the long, I mean, back to your point, Mattia, I think it is right in terms of the responsibilities of working group leads. For example, like Kubernetes has a working group batch, right? But I think it's like working group batch has a multiple sub projects that they maintain, where it is queue, leader worker sets, job sets, or anything else, right? And sometimes like different folks kind of maintain the different like they kind of like have an owner's files, but the write access is limited to the working group. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think like right now, just to get like this unblocked, should we just move forward and add like add an additional lead to the working group data, and then again establish the processes how we can appropriately define this, the roles and the involvement of folks to different components, right?
Like I do want to hesitate with adding anyone to just something that they're not involved in, but I understand that's already the case. But like we do have this, we do also do have this problem where we don't have a clear responsibilities of the leads. You know what I mean? We have your abilities, but we don't have any responsibilities, like technically, other than maybe you should make sure that that component gets released. But like, but even then, that's a bit questionable sometimes. So I don't know. Like, I think he should just be added to write access to the repo he needs access to. But I don't know. Assuming that his team, the team who currently have write access to that repo, are okay with it as well.
As long as he's willing to do the blood oath.
You keep bringing up this blood oath, Josh. I'm worried.
No, I mean, look, I think that the point is like if you want to be a lead, you should probably make some commitment that you're going to stay around for 3 releases or a year and a half or something to that effect. But I don't, however you guys want to put this down, I think write access is a definite do, but lead is fine with me.
Just to be clear, was he a contributor to repo the Spark operator before this change?
Yeah, have you been involved in the Spark operator? I think I know you told us you've been using this in production for many years, right? In your company.
Yes, I'm working at Alibaba Cloud in Beijing, China, and there are lots of companies using Spark Operator in our managed Kubernetes cluster. And I'm recently in the recent 5 months, I am start contributing to Spark Operator repo.
And to be clear, why do you need the ability to make releases as opposed to the existing leads?
Yes, I'm currently I'm one of the main contributors of Spark Operator, and the other maintainers, Chora and Vera, I think they don't have enough time to do the release. So, and recently I'm using controller runtime to reconstruct the Spark Operator, and I think I am familiar with the code, and I want to do the release.
We probably need to agree on what, like, for every component, normally there's at least 2 people involved in making releases. So we should probably make sure that at least 2 people are involved in making any release on Spark Operator as well. But yeah.
But Vary is involved. Like, Vary is reviewing PRs and, Charon also helping him to review PRs, right? Like, like Vary also told me like that he can, draft release if we as a community agree that probably we just need some more time until giving like more right access to the folks, right? Yeah, so this is not a problem, right?
I mean, as long as they have a process to decide when a release is going to be cut and how to test it and how to make sure that there's some quality maintained. Like that's like main thing I'm concerned about here. Like, I mean, there is obviously security concerns, but like assuming that I don't know who you are, so assuming someone else trusts you that we trust, then I'm fine. But like, the main thing I'm concerned about is making sure that, we have an agreed, testing process before we cut a release, or an alpha process, beta process. I don't know, something like that. But yeah.
All right, we need to keep going.
I mean, I defer to you, Andre. You make the call.
Okay, I think for now, at the short term, again, like if model registry folks kind of agree with this, just for the short term, right? For now, we can move forward, helping this drive and unlock key to make the release of 2.0, which will be significant change for Spark Operator, by the way, for all the users, right? And then like maybe which I hope like with discussion with Anish, with you're working on these community guidelines for promotion, we maybe need to discuss those topics again, right? Yeah, and the working of data eventually also needs to be merged, right? So
also, just as a side note, are we going to release an alpha version of this 2.0 first? Is that what we're saying?
I think it will be RC0. So
Okay.
Remind me, like, are we going to release the same APIs, but we don't going to do the alpha version, right? It's just 2.0 of Spark Operator, right?
Yes.
So it's fully
Yeah.
backwards compatible, is what he's asking.
The API is incompatible. It's compatible, and we just improve the Helm charts and the Spark Operator.
Yeah,
Use
it's
continuous runtime
yeah.
to reconstruct it, and the
Then it
API
probably
definition
doesn't need to be a
doesn't
V.
change.
Then does it really need to be a V2? I mean, I don't even. It could be. I guess it doesn't really matter. But
No, I think yeah. Let's maybe have this during Spark Operator call, but we kind of like agreed to migrate to the 2.0 branch, but never mind. Anyway,
it's fine. I'm kind of fine either way. It might imply something to users that's not true. That's all.
All right, we got to move on, guys. Is that all right?
Yeah, sure, Josh.
Yeah. How to run pipeline tests on hosted runners.
Yeah, last week we had some issues with tests for pipelines, and we're considering using hosted runners to run those tests. I would like to know if we have some documentation on how to do that.
So do you have, so hosted runners are, I mean, honestly, they have some serious problems, but there are also some security concerns. How are you planning to run them? Like, do you have a cloud vendor or something who's going to be providing the hardware?
I don't know yet how are we going to run. I'm not very familiar with them as well.
So the big thing about hosted runners is that they are a thing that you have to maintain yourself, and that they will allow arbitrary code execution in wherever you choose to run them.
Yeah, I read. I'm as I said before, I'm not very familiar. But I read that we can have GitHub managed hosted runners, and we could just use these hosted runners and increase the resources. I'm not sure if my understanding is correct.
So what are you actually trying to achieve? What's the problem you're trying to solve?
Yeah, specifically, we had a lack of disk space last week. So one of the reasons is to have more disk space. Otherwise, we may end up falling in this issue again in the future.
Yeah, so
So
because
let me
we're
try to bring
yeah.
some more context here.
You go.
As a CNCF project, we are able to use the GitHub Enterprise account. We need to verify that we already have access to GitHub Enterprise account. One of the biggest features we can use is the hosted runners. And yeah, although it's possible to provide your own hosted runner, there's an option to also use GitHub's cloud environment to create your own hosted runners, right? This is totally possible, but we need to verify that we already have GitHub Enterprise account enabled in Kubeflow.org, right? This is something I discussed with Andrew. We need to find someone who can get access to the hosted runners feature in the GitHub, in the Kubeflow GitHub org, to see if you are already able to create hosted runners in there. What we need the hosted runners. We found an issue with lack of resources during CI test execution in Kubeflow Pipelines project. So one of the things that we consider is both running CI tests in parallel and have higher resources available for runners in GitHub Actions, which can only be achievable through hosted runners. So that's pretty much what we are trying to achieve here.
So I had some conversation with CNCF folks quite recently. So they can give us a lot of Oracle resources, even GPUs. So I just need someone who can volunteer to work, like with CNCF and with me to like, understand what specifically we need from the community standpoint, like how much resources we need and how we can, use those self-hosted runners, right?
I would love some ARM runners if we've got ARM runners potentially.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what Oracle, machines they can give us, but they had some Oracle resources we can use in our project. And maybe even GPUs, as I said, right? So let's definitely follow up on this. Because we need this self-hosted runs everywhere, not only in KFP.
So also, from what I've heard from GitHub themselves, the open source projects on GitHub are going to get ARM runners by the end of the year for free. So that should happen as well. So that's good. But for extra resources, yeah, I don't know, because we're currently on a free GitHub org, like the free one.
No, actually an enterprise. So Ricardo migrate us to the
Okay.
enterprise. Yep.
Yeah, I think our only pending task here is someone who can create the hosted runners for us and make them available through the project. I believe only the ones with right access to the Kubeflow GitHub org can do this. So I really appreciate it if we have any volunteers who can check that out for us.
I mean, it sounds like the CNCF might be the one providing it. Is that right, Andre? Or
so they can provide it, but they need some help from us to set up this, right? I mean, at least
is it like maintaining help, or is it help long term?
So they can give us resources, right, on the cloud that we
Sure.
can use, but they probably won't like spend their, engineer resources to set up those infra. And since we're using GitHub Actions, I think that at least like what they told me, it is a good thing, not that we don't use Pro, because Pro might be harder to set up. But anyway, so
like, can we loop maybe me and a couple of others in that thread then?
yeah, sure. I think once we have more clarification, I can let everyone know.
All right, let's keep moving. We only have 17 minutes. Is there anything else on this, or we got a path?
Andre, can I just confirm you're talking to them through the help desk? Is that right? Or are you talking directly?
So we're talking directly with some, folks from CNCF.
Maybe we should raise a help desk specific request then.
I already have one.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we keep going?
Yeah, move on. Yeah.
Kubeflow UI architecture guidelines.
Hello. I have some slides here that will take around 10 minutes. I don't know if I should go ahead and move forward with this, do it with timing. It's okay?
If you put some slides together and you've waited this long, go ahead. You get
Oh
the
yeah, thank you.
floor.
Thank
know?
you. I try to do a speed run on the
Yeah,
slides.
no,
because
take your time. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you see my slides, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, perfect. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm Eder. I'm working for Red Hat for 11 years. And 10 of those I work with Apache Keys, a community for Druze, JVPM, a lot of Java open source, especially in tooling. On March, I moved for OpenShift AI, especially one of my goals. I'm a staff engineer on tooling there. One of my goals is to figure out how we can collaborate better with the Kubeflow community, starting by model registry. Then when I started to work in there, and I started to talk with some people, so we create some guidelines that especially when Ray and Stefano that we are talking a lot, and sort of guidelines of how we should propose. And what are my goals that I'm trying to cover on those guidelines is first to provide a consistent web experience across existing and more important for new Kubeflow UI project when I talk about user interface, and also recommendations, architecture recommendations for new projects. Another point I want to cover is to how to enable contributions and distributions to consume each web application sub-project independently and be able to embed inside of their own projects. Also, how to streamline the new front ends in the Kubeflow community. So I come from the front end backgrounds and how I welcome on the Kubeflow community. Figure out how to allow the projects and the communities on the front end as well to operate independent as possible. And the last point is how to enable the community and distributions to customize the CSS look and feel of Kubeflow projects and be able to do their own theming. I always like to be transparent. So my goals, my Red Hat goals, is my personal goals that to figure out and collaborate with upstream on model registry and the notebooks. I'm also super interested in the UI architecture, so I can be a resource for the Kubeflow UI community. Personally, and also for Red Hat, I want to figure out how to do a better onboarding for front-end people from the community, and especially for Red Hat UI engineers for this community. We started by model registry and the sequence for Trusty and Feast, and also how we can also be better to collaborate with the dashboard pipelines and Notebook 2.0 that I'm working. And for the Red Hat, we have a problem that we do our midstream on ODH for the UIs, and how we avoid those duplications, for instance, with model registry to move our UIs upstream. This means for the project just put upstreams. So I talk with a lot of people and I have some proposals for architecture recommendations. These proposals, I put some impact in a long doc that I will share later. And there is recommendations for existing and for new projects. I'm more focused. The question is, as I start in model registry in Notebook 2.0 work with Matthew, what are the guidelines for new projects that are onboarding on the UI on the Kubeflow community? So my proposal is to start to then have a micro front end to guarantee that is a micro front architecture. So each sub-project should be a micro front end approach, and the dashboard should be a composition of the standalone components. This is more or less how is our architecture right now, but we need to guarantee that new projects follow the same pattern. Also to have a layer of abstraction for the front end called backend from front end. In short, is a theme translation layer that decouples the projects and the front end from the Kubernetes APIs calls and format the data ready for the UI. This will help a lot to reduce the front-end complexity. So in short, we have the BFF acting as an abstraction layer for all the front-end people, and this will allow them to work without knowing all the Kubernetes complexity. And also the second benefit of this that is allow us to have other clients. For instance, Model Registry, we are planning in future to have a Visual Studio Code client and also a Jupyter client. They will talk with this BFF, so we will decouple the UIs. And also is a third layer of abstraction in the theming if some other component distribution want to reuse, but with a totally different UI. And my proposal is always cover this in two aspects. First is for existing projects and other for new projects. For existing project at this stage, don't change anything. Let me and the team validate this architectural approach and the project that we are working that is in Notebook 2.0 and model registry. And I strongly recommend for the BFF language to be written in Golang. So those recipes guys be written in Golang because you can reuse a lot of the Kubernetes object. Another topic of this proposal is about code collocation. This again is a thing that most of the new projects are following. Code collocation of the front end and the back end is super important for the consistency, for the developer workflow, to allow a better collaboration, to allow code sharing, help a lot on the testing and QA. And this is super important for us to have this independence of each sub-project is a full set where it can be embedded in other projects. So my proposal for this is the same. Don't change anything for existing project. We can think about later. And the new white project, you need to make sure that they are collocated so the front-end code lives in the same repository of the backend in order to follow the micro front-end approach. This simplifies our workflow, enables to run a standalone project, streamline our testing, and foster a better collaboration between front-end and the backend people, again, making everything more easy for onboard front-end developer. Another third thing that I'm working with Stefano is to have a consistent UX experience around existing and new Kubeflow web projects. We are talking about the design system here in a baseline to enhance the Kubeflow design UI. This conversation started by this link. I share the link later about the issue that Stefano did to have a consistency across the UI in all the Kubeflow projects. I'm working with UX people from Red Hat to create a list on those points and figure out what is the better suite of patterns. Now it's just small things, but the most important things that we have to create a design system on Kubeflow, the all new projects are there for this baseline. For this, there are some action items for the existing projects. I'm working with the UX team of Red Hat to map those inconsistencies in the existing projects. And then we are going to have proposed probably some enhancements for our working groups. There are some small tweaks that can give a better experience. That is consistent of buttons, labels, stack, tables, how search works. And in the long term, establish a design token system for Kubeflow. This will allow the teaming. That a design token system is I speak not as a front-end guy. Is a set of variables that are global variables from the CSS where companies can set their own theme. And after those themes in the top layer, colors, button, fonts are defined, cascade in the whole application if the applications are implemented correctly. So we should establish our own design language to have independence even from the material UI. And for new projects, I have the following proposal that we strongly recommend to use React as a front-end library framework to adopt on the Kubeflow because React is the most popular framework right now. And for new projects, as we do everything in React, we can have front-end people collaborating in multiple projects. We should guarantee the UX consistency. So every new project should follow the Google Material Design for React components. So no matter, because there is one thing that is the type system that is Material UI, and another is React. And in the middle, there is the component library. Currently, most of UI projects from Kubeflow, they use Moo, is Material UI. On the new projects that are following for Red Hat, we are proposed to use another subset of components that is React Patternfly. This is just a collection of React components, how we do tables, how we do sorting. But the most important part that no matter which design system or content library implementation, new projects select to give some sort of independency. Because using React Patternfly, it's one of the things that will help me to have everyone on the Red Hat working upstream. Even if I use React and this component library, there is not MUI, we use React Patternfly, the final product rendering will be consistent with the Kubeflow UI design language. So from outside world, all the components will look the same because we established La Pattern. Sorry for this long run, I will follow on the mail thread. So what I need from this call as a summary of action items, what I'm working right now. I talked with the steering committee and now I presented here to confirm this proposal of architectural guidelines, especially for new projects. I'm working also to map the current technology status of all the Kubeflow UIs. This is like version libraries, and maybe we have some action plans, especially to unify the design language because there is a small discrepancy among projects. So I'm working with Stefano to create an action plan to make all the UI look the same. and also confirm the work that I'm doing right now in the model registry and the work that I work for the Notebooks 2.0. That is to create a new UI project based on those deadlines. We are starting the work with Red Hat UI engineers, but we are more than welcome for all the community members, and confirm that we are going to do a BFF in Golang, a React. We'll use React to Patternfly as a component library, but we'll make sure to be consistent with the Kubeflow UX. And sorry for this speed run on this presentation. I will follow up in the mail thread. I don't want to take over all the meetings, and I'm open for questions of everyone.
So my main question is always around resourcing. Is Red Hat going to be helping the project implement some changes here, or is this something?
What I'm sure that we are going to do in model registry that we're focused right now. Next, probably I cannot speak by Ramesh is here. He is more a manager that can help me as well. Model registry is assured, and then we will have the problem of the community. As soon as we have the fixes, and this is easy for everyone to jump in, Red Hat engineers, if they started the model registry, I see them as individual contributor members to help in other projects as well. I cannot commit because it's just a community, but making better why. I think we will onboard more people, white people, and those people will spread around the multiple teams. I personally, I will be pushing people to contribute as a community. For instance, Paulo is from Red Hat as well. He's starting in Notebooks 2.0 in his own free time because he sees that is an interesting project. And so, but it's out of the community. Red Hat focus right now is with model registry.
Yeah, obviously this is a Kubeflow focused meeting, but I will say as from a feast perspective, I'm like super supportive of having a unified UI where like that gets added. So that's my 2 cents there.
Yeah, Andre, sorry to interrupt. My manager is here, Gabe. He can speak as well. I'd rather have that better myself.
Go ahead, Gabriel.
Thank you. I just want to say, from a strategic perspective, like we actively want our engineers to be contributing to the Kubeflow community, and we're going to be providing bandwidth and access for them to do that. So we strategically are behind this, and we support Edder's proposal as far as that goes. Guaranteeing resources is a whole different thing. However, I do have a lot of flexibility with the resources I have, and there's a lot of interest in getting involved. This would allow them to easily get involved.
This is good to hear. I'd love to talk about that at some point. But yeah.
Yeah, I think this is amazing news. Thanks for sharing this, Heather, and thanks for this, Gabriel. Yeah, I think like this is great. First of all, we definitely need to have unification across, Kubeflow ecosystem parts of things, right? So the only question that I think rises to you before there may be like timeline in terms of like when we plan to implement the next step would be useful for us. Especially, I think we discussed previously that probably need to create like some sort of a shareable design tokens that we want to reuse, right? Across multiple components, right? Tables, like some, like other parts of the UI, which can be like buttons, right? And other things, right? So let's definitely maybe open this for comments. I just want to hear comments from the distribution first of all, right? Because I think the question how hard it will be for them to yes, because we need to be flexible in terms of the, like maybe distributions wants to apply their own styling, their own, fonts. And at the same time, we want to have our, like baseline UI vendor agnostic, right?
Yep.
So this is hard to do, right? But we need to like slowly, moving towards, flow kind of, styling, right? And design language, as you said, right?
I think
I was thinking of, sorry, Ryan.
I was saying, I think that was discussed. He said that was like isolating the backends from the actual cluster is the first major step towards that.
Yeah, I think there was three things that we on the timelines. We are working towards model registry, and we are working towards a Notebook 2.0. We are going to start on Notebook 2.0. That's the first 2 things that actually sub projects. Then my suggestion is to start on I work with Stefan on the Kubeflow UI design language and figure out small increments to make the current UI better and to make cohesive, and then automatically we can start to talk with this BFF in the front of everything. distributions can write in the last resort their own front-end component that is the last resort, and gradually we can work together as the design language, starting with the tokens by moving, and then over we go. This is a long term to have the design token, so it's a long term. But I think that the short step right now is to implement this BFF for new projects to be written in the most decoupled way possible, then fix the current state of the Kubeflow wise, and maybe working on some upgrades in the package libraries, and then work in the long term in the design language to abstract us even from the material Y. Go ahead, Lucas. You are the next one in the line. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Hello, everyone. I'm from Eder's team. I'm currently leading the UI part of the project. So I just want to add that apart from what Eder has told you about like the design token and so on, we are designing this just to make sure we get the standards of the industry in regarding like state flow, navigation, component libraries, and so on. So it can be easily reusable and people can chime in and onboard easily. So for example, people in the front-end side can just focus on front-end development, and people in the back-end side can just tweak about like the part of Golang development and Kubernetes. So that gives us flexibility to get to onboard more people in the project easily, rather than just having people knowing both parts of the front end and Kubernetes and so on, which is kind of weird to find that kind of role.
Yeah, Lucas, to introduce him to everyone, Lucas is the Y lead for Model Registry that did the Model Registry in the ODH and now is leading the Y work for Model Registry in the Kubeflow community. So it's one of those type of movements that we are doing.
Yeah, nice to meet you all. that was the thing I wanted to mention.
Thank you.
So I think as a next step, what will be helpful if, distribution owners can review. So first of all, there's a huge piece of pipelines that needs to be refactored, right?
Yeah.
And there are another like feedback we need to gather from distributions like Canonical, Nutanix, like, DeployKF, other folks who actively like Kubo as well, right? Who are actively using Kubeflow.
Mm-hmm.
And like, what do they think about like what a Kubeflow UI should look like for them, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I think we can include in order to, because this I see this as a midterm goal of to rethink our dashboard as a whole, because dashboard is written. Matthew know a lot the pain that you do, and you update that with Polymer and Pug. We should get together as a distribution and understand how we build the dashboard agnostic in future. But I think this, in the same time, having those projects starting with the right way, with this path of architecture proposal that I'm doing right now, is one short-term goal that we can have, and then we can have those sort of discussion. And I'm here to help the community to achieve this, because this is also part of mine personally, and also in Red Hat interesting.
I just want to add one more thing, which is like one thing that we didn't mention is we have a lot of experience on implementing these patterns for both model registry right now, but we can help in pipelines, in notebooks, and so on, to bring the experience about the UX flow and all the patterns that we've introduced in our products and so on, just to make sure we bring those best patterns and UX flows and UI best practices into the product. So we'll be able to get people with a lot of experience to make sure we bring the best value to the project.
Yeah, and over time, like James, are you still on the call? Like, since you're here from the pipelines perspective, like I think maybe he left because like I want to hear like, for example, pipelines has a huge adoption in Vertex AI, right? I think my question is like, do they use the upstream UI or they build something like internal, right?
In Red Hat, we use we having ODH another Y, unfortunately.
And so does Google, to be clear. Google uses,
yeah.
In fact, Google's even more intense. They don't even use the same backend.
So
that's
Google
in their managed product.
In Vertex AI, they're using their own UI. They don't use the upstream UI that we have.
I don't believe so. They also don't use the same backend. I think the only thing that's compatible is the actual API.
Yeah, I cannot. I can talk about Red Hat, and when Red Hat we use the same operator, but unfortunately we have another pipelines UI. That is one of the issues that we are putting effort from Red Hat perspective. This is also what Gabe mentioned, that on our own ODH, and also there were some Red Hat people helping in small tweaks on the Kubeflow UI for the pipelines. So in middle term, I think we should merge those two efforts together, but it's a different conversation. My suggestion is to start small, like model registry, notebooks, then we get together, and then we go for the pipeline that will be the more complicated one. But the most important thing, I think, is to push front-end people to the Kubeflow community.
Okay, sounds good. As long as we got resources to help do it, then I'm happy. As long as we get Notebooks 2.0's UI done and stuff. Obviously, there is discussions to be made about the tokens and the way they're done, but that can if we all agree that we should have some standard, then that's good at least. Okay, do you want to? Is no one sharing their screen anymore? Okay. I just want to show one more thing, just for people who have stuck around this long. Where is it? How do I share? Share, there we go. Share.
You are on mute, Matthew.
Hello?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay, I was just saying, we now have three. I just want to highlight some cool changes to the website. One is that now if you link the Kubeflow website on a social website, including Slack and other things, there's a social embed that's automatically generated for every single page. It's kind of cool. So if you post it on Twitter or whatever else, it'll be easier to share. We're hopefully going to get this merged soon, which is a improvement to the way the website looks. It's not significant change. The biggest change is that the sidebars are now constrained width. Where is the tab? So like now if you have a really wide, wherever it is, where's the top page? There it is. So like it's now a bit easier to like see these very deeply nested pages were a bit problematic before. Now it's a bit cleaner on both sides. If the page is very wide, previously it would have caused, if you're on a really wide screen, you'd have elements on the very far edges of the screen, which is not traditional design. And so now it would look like this on a very wide screen. To be clear, this only affects a tiny fraction of users, but it is better. The biggest change again is this sidebar though, which is that for deeply nested pages, previously it was almost impossible to read the actual page content titles, which was a big problem for a lot of them. So it's now a lot easier. Anyway, and also there's one big change for the pipelines people, if you haven't seen it, which is going to be helping a lot of people, I think, which is that we now actually have a Swagger UI on the website for the Kubeflow Pipelines API. So, and also, so this is a lot easier to read than previously we weren't even updating it. But now it's automatically generated from the Swagger JSON from the Kubeflow Pipelines website. And so if any other part of the project has a REST API, I can show them how to do this as well. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for sharing, Matt. I have a question. This is Alex from Kubeflow. To update the version of 1.9, can we just start doing the PRs for that?
For what? Sorry, what do you mean?
For the support for the distributions.
You mean under here? Under installing Kubeflow?
No, under the yes, from those.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if your distribution officially supports it, link to your new version, and then so hopefully your release notes have it, and then yeah.
Yeah, no, I still have to work on that. Just I wanted to make sure we can just already do it, or you're waiting for.
Of course, yeah. If 1.9's out, so if you're publicly saying that you support it, then do that.
Perfect. Sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Matt, I've got an unrelated question. How did you generate the deploy preview?
Sorry, can you say again?
How did you generate the deploy preview for this pull request?
Oh, sorry. This is just on every single pull request. So every single PR you make on the website, you'll see this thing down the bottom, deploy Netcalify. You can click details, and that will take you to the the website version.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, and so also you can do that preview yourself. I mean, it's just if you haven't already seen it, you really need to know about it, which is scroll down on the main README of the website, run local, clone init submodules, do some npm installs, run Hugo server. Do make sure that you're running the old version of Hugo. It doesn't work with the new version, because of reasons I don't know. And
I've been doing running this locally, but yeah, this is something I've like if I were to take some feedback from others, this was the problem that how do I actually share the change UI or the change content?
So usually I just take screenshots before and after if it's a big change, but this is honestly a ridiculously complicated change because it was such a painful styling to get it to work properly. Like, there's so many other just basic fixes that are happening. Like these sidebars now properly stay stationary when you scroll. It also works properly on mobile. When you refresh the page, and sometimes the mobile preview kind of glitches out. But it's fine. It works properly. It centers everything. Anyway, but not many people browse the website on mobile. But yeah. Also, I think we'll get a lot more feedback on the pages because these sidebar links are now a lot more clear and link you directly. So if you click give feedback, what it does is it creates because people just created these random issues before thinking that we knew what page they were on. Now it actually creates in the title the page that they were on. Anyway, that's I just wanted to share that. The other change was also I haven't finished it. Well, we haven't finished reviewing it yet, but the Kubeflow pipelines user guide with the migration changes. This PR also will be at some point merged, but people were a bit concerned about references to Vertex AI. I think that's not a big deal because they were already there. But anyway, yeah.
Okay. I think we're way over time. Chris stayed on. Chris, you want to give us some feedback? Great. We got a few minutes. If not, we can do it next time.
I'll say I'm very new to it all, so I'm not going to have anything too deep for y'all. I'm an independent contractor, so I think it's just the I have experience with working with Kubernetes, quite a bit of experience. So I think as always, it's like with any project like this, trying to experiment with it. It's like how do you dip a toe, and like the whole thing is of course of a certain scale. So finding the right way to deploy it as somebody new to the project is something that I'm working through right now for my own learning. So there's certainly a learning curve. I think that's to be expected. Nothing too deep yet. I'll look to join more meetings in the future and hopefully have worked through more of it and have more, deeper thought because
Kubeflow is a combination of so many different projects, and some people just need one or two or whatever. So I guess from your perspective, as you came in, were you like, oh God, this is overwhelming, or hey, I just want to learn about pipelines? Was there anything like that came to your mind as you were kind of trying to consume the material that we have? And
I can certainly see that. I see that feeling in my periphery. I've worked with this technology long enough that I think I'm familiar with that feeling and can just sort of like see it there and allow it. For me, it's about since I am an independent contractor, it's like I'm supposed to be coming in with answers to problems, and so I want to make sure I'm always continuing my education. So I've worked with Kubernetes a lot. I've not done a lot of like practical deployments of AI workloads and things like that. So it is a big learning curve for me. So for me, it's kind of about the breadth of it. It's about diving in and smashing into all the problems with it, or all the challenges to work through. So as a learning exercise, I think I wouldn't necessarily throw someone, if I was running a team, I wouldn't necessarily throw someone brand new and say, hey, just dive in and figure it out. But for me, I think I just appreciate that there's a lot to learn from a practical point of view for me and my work. I think it is a challenge to especially in that, it is so broad. It's like as an individual, like what is even useful for me to try to spend my time on learning if it solves such big problems. So that's me something for now. I'm thinking I'm looking at like something like K-serve or something, serving some models and just like find some way to frame a problem that I can then solve as a learning exercise.
Yeah, I think that's really the piece that we struggle with is like trying to give the comprehensive overview takes a real long time to get people across, whereas some of the components you might be able to get value in faster for a particular problem that you might be able to have. So it's kind of like, what do we do to attract people and keep them successfully incrementally adding value as they go along, right?
Sure.
But maybe you are able to consume the pages, the documentation, the website, and say, hey, yeah, I want to learn about that. I want to learn about this. And you just kind of focused your place well. I just wanted to see if you're like, I clicked on a lot of stuff and I'm still not sure I got anything out of it, or I got stuff out of it fairly quickly. That's kind of the piece I was trying to get to. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I think like I said, I'm familiar with certain aspects of the Kubernetes and things like that. So I think that helped it not feel totally overwhelming. But I am new to a lot of it, so I'll definitely share my thoughts as I work through it because some of it is like totally brand new to me. And so if I find ways that it helps me to sort of narrow it, I'll share that to help with others in the future.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thanks for that input. All right, folks, we had other stuff on the agenda. We're 15 minutes over. I think this was a really good set. Andre, is this getting closer to what you thought the meeting should be? I mean, I'm hoping we're...
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was great. I think just like in the next couple of, months, I think maybe we can, establish some pre-created agenda, especially for ML topics, especially for data scientists and the folks to give some demos and more exciting things about AI. And again, like back to our discussion, we can split this work about like some more contributor discussion and also some ML discussion, right?
Yeah.
So we have more interesting, demos here. I'm actually planning to ask students to present very soon. So we're gonna have like 4 new ML demos from them when they finish their work.
Right. I think that's fantastic. Yeah, we need to highlight those things. Those are great work, both by the mentors and the mentees, and we want to make sure that they get life and exposure. So, all right, let's cut this one out. We're way over. I've got to make a appointment. So everybody have a good day. If you can continue if you want, but I got to go.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
So guys.